travelers to Midnight Atlas.
Okay, here's a question to start us off. What if you went on a quiet drive, maybe late at night, and hours of your life and the very memory of them just vanished?
Just gone. Poof, like you said.
Exactly. It's a classic kind of foundational mystery, isn't it? It's captured people's imaginations for, well, decades now.
It really has.
So today, we're taking a deep dive into arguably the most famous case of alleged alien abduction in modern history, the Barney and Betty Hill incident.
Right, you might have heard it called the Hill Abduction, or maybe even the Zeta Reticuli incident. Lots of names for it.
We've got a good stack of sources here, articles, research, the Hill's own accounts.
And our mission really is to explore this whole complex story from, well, every angle we can. We're going to unpack the initial event, all those fascinating, sometimes unsettling details that came out later.
Yeah, and the scientific attempts to explain it all.
And of course, the counter-arguments, which are just as compelling in their own way.
The goal here is to cut through the noise,
Right.
and give you the essential bits, the key knowledge and insights you need to really get a handle on this enduring enigma.
Absolutely. So to get started, we really need to understand the people involved, Barney and Betty Hill. Who were they before this extraordinary night?
Good question. What were their lives like?
Well, they were an American couple, lived in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Barney, born in 1922, he was a World War II vet, worked for the post office.
Okay.
And Betty, born 1919, she was a social worker. But what's really crucial here, and sometimes gets kind of lost, is their standing in the community.
They weren't just average folks.
Not really, no. They were deeply involved, respected members of their local Unitarian church, and pretty significant civil rights activists, too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, both active in the NAACP. Barney even served on a local board for the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights.
Yeah.
So, these were people of integrity, pillars of their community.
And it's worth pointing out they were an interracial couple, which back in 1961 in the U.S. was pretty uncommon. Adds another layer, doesn't it?
It definitely does. So, okay, let's set the scene. The night itself, September 19th, 1961.
Right.
The Hills are driving home. It's about 10:30 at night. They're coming back from vacation. Niagara Falls, Montreal.
Nice trip.
Yeah, and their route takes them to this rural, mountainous area, the White Mountains in New Hampshire. Should have been a peaceful drive home.
But it wasn't. So Betty sees something first.
That's right. Betty notices this bright point of light up in the sky. It says it's moving kind of erratically from below the moon and Jupiter, then upwards to the west of the moon. At first she thinks maybe a falling star, but then she notes it moved upward, which falling stars don't do.
Right.
And it just keeps getting bigger and brighter.
And Barney, what did he make of it?
Well, Barney, he initially tried to rationalize it. Maybe it's just a commercial airliner.
The logical explanation first.
Exactly. But as he watched it, his view changed pretty fast. He realized, quote, this object that was a plane was not a plane because it was descending rapidly, but it didn't seem to be turning.
So that initial easy explanation just fell apart.
Completely. It was becoming clear they were seeing something. Something inexplicable.
So, okay, they keep driving, slowly now, through Franconia Notch. What happens then? Does it get closer?
Oh yeah, this is where things escalate. They're going through the notch. And this silent, lit-up craft passes right over Cannon Mountain.
Wow.
Betty said it looked at least 1.5 times the length of the Old Man of the Mountain profile. It's like a 40-foot cliff face. So big.
Huge, yeah.
And it seemed to be rotating, moving erratically, almost like it was checking them out.
Okay, that's unnerving. Then they stop the car.
They do. About a mile south of Indian Head, the object just drops rapidly towards their car. Forces Barney to slam on the brakes right there in the middle of the highway.
In the middle of the highway, jeez.
Yeah. And this huge, silent craft just hovers there, maybe 80 to 100 feet above their 57 Chevy Bel Air, filling the entire windshield.
Filling the windshield.
Artie's description. He said it reminded him of a huge pancake.
A pancake. Okay. Must have been absolutely overwhelming, terrifying.
You'd think so. And this is where it gets even stranger. Barney, kind of overcome with fear, but maybe curiosity too, he grabs his pistol.
Wait, he had a pistol with him?
He did. Grabs his pistol, gets out of the car, steps away.
Okay.
He looks up through binoculars and claims he sees figures. 8 to 11 humanoid figures peering out of the craft's windows, looking right at him.
Oh, wow. Figures. Like beings.
Yeah. He said all but one moved back to some kind of panel. The one that stayed seemed to, like, communicate a message, telling him to stay where you are and keep looking.
Telepathically. Where did he hear it?
He didn't specify hearing words exactly, more like a communicated thought.
Yeah.
He described them wearing these glossy black uniforms, black caps, then red lights on what looked like bat wing fins, kind of telescoped out.
That wing fin?
And a long structure came down from the bottom of the craft. It got closer, maybe 50 to 80 feet overhead, about 300 feet away. Silent the whole time.
Okay, I think I'd be running back to the car at this point.
That's exactly what Barney did. Suddenly, just overwhelmed with fear, convinced they were going to be captured, he bolts back to the car, terrified.
And they speed off.
They floor it. But as they're racing away, they hear this strange beeping sound.
Beep.
Yeah, so the beeps or buzzes. And as soon as they hear it, both of them just fall into this daze, like instantly.
A daze, so they blacked out.
Essentially, yeah. The next thing they know, they're kind of waking up and they realize they're way further down the road, just outside Concord.
How far?
About 35 miles further south, with absolutely no memory of how they covered that distance.
Wow, that's the missing time.
That's the famous missing time. It took a bit for the full implications to sink in, but yeah. Barney later told an investigator, Walter Webb from ANCAP.
NHAP, the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena.
Right. Yeah, he told Webb that the beings were somehow not human, and that missing time phenomenon. It became absolutely foundational, almost like a template for so many abduction accounts that came later. It really changed how people understood these experiences.
So they finally get home, it's almost dawn, they must have been completely shaken up.
Totally. And experiencing some really odd things. Like, Betty insisted they keep their luggage near the back door, not bring it fully inside. Almost like she felt it was contaminated or needed to be kept separate.
Weird impulse. And there was physical evidence too, right? Stuff they couldn't explain?
Oh yeah, their watches. Both stopped working that night and never worked again.
Huh.
Barney noticed the strap on his binoculars was torn, but he had no memory of it tearing. And the toes of his good dress shoes were all scraped up.
Scraped? From what? He didn't remember doing anything that would scrape them.
Nope. And Betty found her dress was torn, the hem, the zipper, the lining. And it had this weird pinkish powder on it. She said it later just blew away.
A pink powder? Did anyone analyze that?
Well, the dress itself, yeah. She actually threw it out, but it was retrieved later. Apparently analyzed by 5 different labs over the years, though the results seem to have been inconclusive or delayed.
In the car. Didn't they find something on the car?
Right, the car. They found these shiny, kind of concentric circles on the trunk. Definitely weren't there before the trip.
Circles? Like burn marks? Or...
Described more as shiny spots arranged in circles. And here's the really weird part. They got a compass. When they held it near those spots, the needle would just spin like crazy.
Whoa.
Move it a few inches away and it would settle right down. Normal function.
Okay, that's compelling. That sounds like more than just memory or perception. Did investigators take that seriously?
The early ones did, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Walter Webb, the NICAP guy we mentioned, he interviewed them for 6 hours back in October 61, not long after it happened.
6 hours.
Yeah. Barney admitted he felt like he had a mental block, like parts of it he just couldn't, or didn't want to remember. But Webb walked away convinced they were, quote, telling the truth, despite some minor uncertainties. The consistency, the demeanor, the physical stuff like the car marks. It added up for him.
So they're home, they've got missing time, physical oddities, fragmented memories. But the story keeps developing, right? Betty started having dreams.
She did. About 10 days after the encounter, she started having these incredibly vivid dreams. They went on for 5 nights straight.
Wow.
And she said they had a level of detail and intensity unlike any dream she'd ever had before.
What were they about? Related to the incident?
Directly. In one dream, she and Barney hit a roadblock. Men surround the car. She remembers being forced out by these 2 small men.
Small men?
Yeah, about 5 foot to 5'4", wearing matching blue uniforms, kind of like cadet caps. She described them as looking almost human black hair, dark eyes, big noses, bluish lips, grayish skin.
Detailed description.
Very. In the dream, they're forced to walk into a forest at night. Barney seems like he's in a trance. They're taken to another car where a figure she called the leader suggests they just wait there, watch the craft leave, and then they can continue their drive.
So the dreams were filling in the missing time.
It seemed like it. These weren't just vague nightmares. They felt like unfolding narratives to her. Very persistent, very detailed.
And all this, the anxiety, the dreams, the missing time, it led them to seek help, right?
Understandably, yeah. The stress was immense. In November '62, they actually approached an Air Force captain, Ben Sweat, who they heard was interested in hypnosis.
Did he hypnotize them?
No, he declined. Said it wasn't really his place, but he strongly urged them to seek professional psychiatric help, specifically someone experienced with hypnosis.
Which led them to Dr. Benjamin Simon.
Exactly. A well-respected Boston psychiatrist and neurologist. And this is a key part of the story. Between January and June of 1964, Dr. Simon conducted a whole series of intensive hypnosis sessions.
Okay.
And crucially, he hypnotized Betty and Barney separately
Oh, that's smart. Why?
to prevent them from influencing each other's accounts. He wanted to see if their recovered memories, supposedly from the missing time, would be independent, or if one was just echoing the other, maybe based on Betty's dreams.
Makes sense. So, what came out under hypnosis? What did Barney remember?
Barney's account under hypnosis got very intense. He remembered the binocular strap breaking as he ran back to the car in panic.
So that explains the broken strap.
Maybe. Then he described feeling compelled, like he couldn't resist, pulling off the road, driving into the woods, and seeing 6 figures approach the car.
6 of them.
Yeah, he described them staring into his eyes, this terrifying, mesmerizing effect. He said, quote, "Oh, those eyes. They're there in my brain, and all I see are these eyes pressing against my eyes."
Chilling.
He heard them speaking, but it was like a mumbling language he couldn't understand. Communication felt more like thought transference was the term he used.
Thought transference. Okay.
And he described being subjected to some kind of medical exam, a circular instrument being placed on his abdomen.
And Betty, what did she recall under hypnosis?
Betty's hypnotic story mirrored her dreams quite closely, but with even more specifics. She remembered being separated from Barney inside the craft.
Inside the craft now.
Yes. And also undergoing medical exams. She described, quite famously, a long needle being inserted into her navel. She was told it was a kind of pregnancy test.
The needle in the navel. That became a really common element in later abduction stories too, didn't it?
It absolutely did. These accounts, Barney's and Betty's, recovered under hypnosis, they really cemented many of the tropes we now associate with the classic alien abduction narrative.
And didn't Betty mention a map?
Yes, Star Map. She claimed that during a sort of conversation with the leader figure, he showed her this 3-dimensional map indicating where they came from.
A 3D star map? That's pretty specific.
Extremely specific. And what was remarkable, especially since they were hypnotized separately,
Right, Dr. Simon's method.
was that despite the differences in what they remembered consciously before hypnosis, their accounts under hypnosis were incredibly consistent with each other about the core experience being taken, the figures, the exams.
That consistency must have seemed very powerful.
For many people, yes. It felt like independent corroboration, even though it was coming from hypnosis, which is controversial itself.
So the hypnosis sessions end. What did Dr. Simon make of it all? Did he believe they were abducted?
Well, Dr. Simon wrote an article for a journal called Psychiatric Opinion. His conclusion was that the case was a singular psychological aberration.
Aberration, so not real.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
He concluded that while the Hills weren't consciously lying or making it up, they had likely constructed and shared a kind of fantasy, or perhaps elaborated on Betty's dream.
To fill in the missing time gap.
Exactly. Triggered by the real anxiety and fear from the initial, genuinely strange UFO sighting they probably did have, he saw it as a psychological coping mechanism.
But the Hills themselves, they believed the hypnotic memories were real, right? That must have created some tension.
Absolutely. For them, what came out under hypnosis was the reality of what happened during the missing hours. So you have this fascinating conflict. The psychiatrist offering a psychological explanation, and the patients experiencing it as literal truth. Simon was respected, but his conclusions certainly didn't convince everyone, least of all the Hills.
And they hadn't wanted publicity initially, right? They kept it pretty quiet.
For a while, yeah. They only discussed it with close friends, family, researchers like Webb. They weren't seeking fame.
But it didn't stay private forever.
No way. October 25th, 1965. Boom. Front page of the Boston Traveler. Headline: UFO Chiller. Did they seize couple?
Wow, how did that happen?
A reporter, John Luttrell, somehow got hold of an audio tape from a lecture they'd given privately, plus some confidential interview notes, and just ran with it.
And once it's on the front page.
The floodgates opened. The very next day, UPI United Press International picked up the story. Suddenly, Barney and Betty Hill were internationally known.
That must have changed everything for them.
Completely. Then, in 1966, the book came out. Writer John G. Fuller got cooperation from the Hills, and even Dr. Simon, and wrote The Interrupted Journey.
That's the really famous book about their case.
That's the one. It included a copy of Betty's sketch of that star map she remembered. The book was a huge hit, went through multiple printings. It really cemented the Hill incident in the public mind, made it the archetypal abduction story.
What happened to them after all that? The fame, the scrutiny?
Well, tragically, Barney died fairly young. Cerebral hemorrhage in February 1969. He was only 46.
Oh, that's sad. So young.
Yeah, Betty lived much longer. She never remarried, became quite a figure, really a celebrity in the UFO community. Always maintained the truth of their experience. She passed away from cancer in 2004 at 85.
And their story lived on. Her niece wrote a book too, right?
That's right. Kathleen Martin co-authored Captured, the Betty and Barney Hill UFO experience with the well-known ufologist Stanton Friedman, kept the story alive for a new generation.
And just as a modern connection, we mentioned it earlier, but it's kind of amazing they're the grandparents of Angela Hill, the UFC fighter.
Small world, isn't it? Now, about that star map Betty drew, that became a whole saga in itself.
Right, the map the leader supposedly showed her.
Exactly. In 1968, this woman, Marjorie Fish, she was an elementary school teacher, but also an amateur astronomer. She gets fascinated by the map sketch in Fuller's book.
Okay.
She makes an assumption. One of the 15 stars on the map must be our own sun. Then she starts building these 3D models of nearby stars similar to our sun, trying to find a match.
Like a cosmic detective.
Pretty much. After years of painstaking work, she comes to a conclusion. The only viewpoint that matches Betty's map is from the Zeta Reticuli system.
Zeta Reticuli, that's where the name comes from. How far away is that?
It's a double star system, about 39 light years from Earth. So relatively close in cosmic terms, but still incredibly far.
Did people buy her interpretation? What did the scientific community think?
Well, Fish sent her work to Walter Webb, the NCAP investigator. He was convinced. He passed it on to Terence Dickinson, who was the editor of Astronomy magazine at the time.
A mainstream astronomy magazine.
Yeah. And remarkably, for the first time ever, Astronomy decided to publish and invite debate on a UFO report. Started in December 1974. The debate ran in their opinions section for about a year. It was kind of a landmark moment.
But not everyone was convinced, I take it.
Definitely not. Carl Sagan and Stephen Soter, two prominent astronomers, argued pretty strongly against it. They said the map was basically just a random scattering of dots.
Random dots.
Yeah, Sagan even demonstrated it on his TV show, Cosmos. He showed the map without Betty's connecting lines and argued it looked like nothing. His point was, you can connect any random points and make it look like something. Pattern recognition bias.
Makes sense. But were there any scientists who supported Fish's idea?
There were some. David Saunders, a statistician who'd actually worked on the Condon Committee UFO study back in the 60s.
The big government study.
Right. He argued the match Fish found wasn't just random. He calculated the odds of getting that specific pattern among the nearest sun-like stars by chance were at least 1,000 to 1 against. So he thought there was statistical significance there.
1,000 to 1 against. That sounds pretty compelling too. So where did the debate land? Was the map ever confirmed or debunked?
It leaned heavily towards debunk, especially with better data. In the early 1990s, the European Hipparcos satellite mission got much more accurate measurements of star distances.
Ah, new data.
Exactly. And it showed that some of the key stars in Fish's interpretation were actually much farther away than she thought, which kind of broke her model. Other researchers also found inconsistencies in the criteria she used to select the stars in the first place.
So the science eventually moved against it.
Pretty decisively. And interestingly, Marjorie Fish herself, based on this new evidence, eventually publicly retracted her own hypothesis. She acknowledged it didn't hold up.
Wow. That takes integrity to retract her own famous theory.
It really does. Shows how science is supposed to work, you know? New evidence changes understanding.
Okay, so if the star map is likely out, what about other skeptical explanations for the whole experience, besides Dr. Simon's psychological theory?
Well, one prominent one focuses on that initial sighting. Jim McDonald, who lived in the area, did a detailed analysis. He argued the whole thing might have started with the Hills simply misidentifying an aircraft warning beacon on top of Cannon Mountain.
A beacon, like a flashing light.
Yeah. He pointed out that the way the beacon appeared and disappeared, especially viewed from different points on the road, could match some of the Hills' descriptions of the object's initial movements.
And the rest of it? The missing time, figures?
McDonald suggested the rest could potentially be explained by a combination of factors. Stress from the weird light, definitely sleep deprivation, they were driving late at night after all.
Good point.
And then false memories, perhaps unintentionally created or reinforced during the hypnosis sessions. Robert Schieffer, another well-known UFO skeptic, famously called the Hills the poster children for why you shouldn't drive when you're exhausted.
That's a pretty down-to-earth explanation for the start of it, at least. What about Betty's later claims? Did she report other sightings?
She did, and that's where some critics raise questions about her overall credibility. Robert Schieffer points out that later in life, Betty presented UFO photos that were, well, not convincing, just blips, blurs, and blobs. Apparently, she got literally jeered off the stage at one UFO conference in the 80s.
Ouch.
He also mentions her self-published book from 1995, A Common Sense Approach to UFOs, which he says was filled with stories that sound, frankly, delusional, like seeing whole squadrons of UFOs, a truck levitating over the highway.
Okay, that does sound pretty out there.
Schieffer even recounts an anecdote where Betty was doing a UFO watch with another enthusiast, and apparently couldn't tell the difference between a landed UFO and a simple streetlight.
So later claims might cast some doubt on the original account for some people.
For skeptics, yes. They argue it shows a pattern of perhaps misinterpretation or suggestibility, even if the initial 1961 event felt very real to her at the time.
There was also that theory about TV shows influencing the memories.
Ah, yes. The Outer Limits. That's a fascinating one. Martin Kottmeyer suggested back in 1990 that Barney's memories, especially the ones that came out under hypnosis in early 1964, might have been influenced by specific episodes of that sci-fi show that aired just days before his sessions began.
Really? Like what?
Well, one episode called The Bolero Shield aired February 10th, 1964, just 12 days before Barney's first hypnosis session. It featured an alien with these large, wraparound eyes, very similar to the sketch Barney later drew.
Whoa, okay.
And the alien in the show even says something like, "In all the universes, all who have eyes that speak," which sounds a bit like Barney's feeling of communication through the eyes.
That timing is interesting. Did Betty know about the show?
Betty always insisted she'd never heard of it. But the timing is suggestive for critics.
Were there other episodes?
Yeah, researcher Jason Colavito pointed out others. The Invisibles, aired February 3rd, had scenes involving some kind of surgical procedure that he argues echoes the probing Barney described. And another one, The Children of Spider County, aired February 17th, just 5 days before Barney's session. It had an alien with those big glowing wraparound eyes who stops a car, and some story elements seem to vaguely parallel parts of Barney's own life.
So the idea is that these images and ideas from fiction, seen maybe even peripherally, could have seeped into his subconscious.
And then emerged during hypnosis, mistaken for actual memory. It raises really deep questions about memory, suggestion, and how our brains construct narratives, especially under unusual circumstances like hypnosis.
It really does. So whether it's aliens or a misidentified beacon plus stress or influenced by sci-fi, whatever the explanation.
Right, regardless of what really happened.
The Barney and Betty Hill incident became the foundational case, didn't it? It set the stage for decades of alien abduction reports.
Absolutely. It introduced so many of the key elements: the lost time, the shipboard examination, the specific look of the grays, though they weren't called that yet.
Yeah.
The star map, the message. It created the template. It shaped how people perceived and reported these experiences for generations.
And its cultural impact has been huge, hasn't it? It keeps popping up.
Immense.
Yeah.
Ongoing. Beyond the nonfiction books we mentioned, like Interrupted Journey or Captured, it's been in comics recently, a 2023 Dark Horse series called Blue Book, 1961.
Right.
And historian Matthew Bowman used their story in his 2023 book to explore the whole era: civil rights, the Cold War, the rise of the New Age, contextualizing.
Jen and Barney went on TV.
Yeah, back in '66, he actually appeared on the game show, to tell the truth. Can you imagine?
Wow. And fictional adaptations, too.
Loads. The big one was the 1975 TV movie, The UFO Incident, starring James Earl Jones as Barney. Very influential.
Okay.
Betty's star map supposedly inspired the look of the ancient maps in the Ridley Scott movie Prometheus in 2012.
You're kidding.
Yeah. It's been a VR exhibit, a comic book series called Saucer Country, inspired an episode of the recent Project Blue Book TV show.
It just keeps echoing.
It does. Most recently, there's a 2023 song by Angelo DiAugustine called The Ballad of Betty and Barney Hill. And there's a movie in the works, Strange Arrivals, with Demi Moore and Coleman Domingo set to play Betty and Barney.
So the story clearly still resonates. It hasn't faded away.
Not at all. Which brings us back, I guess. We've gone through the whole journey that drive through New Hampshire. The mything time, the hypnosis, the map, the skepticism, the enduring legacy.
From a quiet, terrifying night to this global phenomenon that still sparks debate and fascination.
Exactly.
You know, the Betty and Barney Hill incident, it really serves as this powerful reminder, doesn't it? About how human memory, our perception, our beliefs, how all that interacts with the unknown.
Yeah, how it shapes not just what we think happened to us individually, but the whole collective imagination, really. Our ideas about what might be out there.
So after unpacking all these pieces, the testimony, the evidence, the doubts, the cultural impact, what do you make of it all? It leaves you thinking, doesn't it?
You have been listening to Midnight Atlas. For more journeys into the unknown, be sure to follow or subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Until our next journey, stay curious.